there was an odd team out, a team that was outside looking in that a lot of people expected Damian Lillard to get traded to, and that is the Miami Heat. So with the news today of Damian Lillard getting traded to the Milwaukee Bucks, what does that mean for the Miami Heat, Trevon? What are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, there's not a direct path that I can see at this moment. Not only did you miss out on that star player that you were hoping to get, which is something they really needed, was just that similar to Milwaukee, just that consistent perimeter offensive engine that you needed to go along with the Jimmy Butler, who we've seen just exert a lot of energy and carry a huge load in the recent years, such as last year, obviously, and the bubble. That meme of Jimmy just bending over the baseline table, the gas. Like we've seen Jimmy lay it all out on the floor. And last year we just saw him reach to a point where he couldn't reach that extra gear that they needed when they were just overmatched by talent. And Dame would have provided that for them was just talent, offensive firepower. And it would have fit very well also. You lose Gabe Vincent, you lose Max Struess, you lose a lot of key players that were helping you offensively. Gabe Vincent was lighting it up from three for most of the year. I know they had struggles once they got to the finals and things of that nature. Max Struess was a 3-point threat. Also, he was a guy that was not afraid to take the big shot. He was always willing to do whatever the team needed to do, and just he was one of the guys that showed up, one of the main rotational pieces. So when you're this thing about waiting for stars, I'm sure Miami thought they were getting Dame no matter what. For them to not really make any moves in reaction to losing the key rotational pieces that they had, my gut feeling is they had a very good feeling that they were going to get Dame. Now you're in this predicament. You have to look at what else is available out there. That I don't really know at this moment, but you cannot just sit here and lay down with the season approaching and to lose those key pieces and not get Damian Lillard. I don't really know where that puts you right now. They are not in a very good spot right now, but hopefully the Pat Riley and the rest of the organization had backup plans for things that they can for moves that they can make. Hopefully they can just float and be competitive throughout most of the season. Maybe they could go after Drew Holiday. It's probably not the need that they really wanted. It would help. It would definitely fit with their team and the defensive mindset that they've proven to be very good at. But it's not going to really address the issues that they need mostly, which is offensive scoring. Do you go after James Harden? I mean, I don't really know what their next step is, what they have planned, but this does not leave Miami in a good spot as they definitely missed out on the sweepstakes for Dame.
Yeah, no, I've heard different ideas, like you mentioned James Harden. I've heard some people even say, like you mentioned again with Drew Holiday, it would be kind of funny if the Miami Heat called the Portland Trailblazers, hey, what about Drew Holiday? But I've also heard another player that was mentioned, and this was actually kind of interesting with Zach LaVine. Somebody mentioned maybe the Miami Heat go after Zach LaVine, but yeah, the Miami Heat, it was kind of like a game of poker or a game of chicken. You know, the Miami Heat, they were calling the Portland Trailblazers bluff. They wanted to try and wait them out, and nobody really saw Milwaukee even being involved in trade talks with the Portland Trailblazers. They kept it really quiet, but the Miami Heat, they tried to call the Portland Trailblazers bluff. They tried to wait them out, but it just didn't work out for them. That approach didn't work out for them, and that was kind of their whole trade leverage. The Miami Heat, this was kind of their whole trade leverage of, we know Dame wants to come to Miami. We know not too many teams are willing to give up a whole bunch for him, but apparently that wasn't the case. And they missed out. At the end of the day, they missed out on a superstar that fit the needs, like you said, fit the needs that they had, especially going into the playoffs where they need another perimeter shot creator that would help take the pressure off of Bam, that would help take the pressure off of Jimmy. And they just weren't able to get that player, or the player that a lot of people thought was a perfect fit for them, in Damian Lillard. But at this point, you just got to move forward. There were even Jimmy Butler had posted some things on Instagram or on social media talking about how the Milwaukee Bucks should get investigated, or the NBA should take a look at into them for tampering or whatever the case may be. So that just kind of shows how a little frustrated he probably was, that not only that the Miami Heat didn't get Damian Lillard in a trade, but he went
Milwaukee
to the
got him.
Milwaukee Bucks in the same conference as the Miami Heat. So it's just tough all the way around for the Miami Heat. And they have been able to overcome, like you said, the talent gaps. Gabe Vincent and Max Strus did a great job in the playoffs. But ultimately, it did kind of show, especially when they went up against the Denver Nuggets. And they have been able to overcome that. And like in the past 4 seasons, I think they made it to the conference finals, 3 times and all that stuff. So even though they have been able to overcome that talent gap this long, it still makes you wonder how many more times they could do it. Even though you don't count them out, even though you understand that they can do it, it's still, how many times can you do it?
Yeah, definitely. Another name. Do you go after a guy like Karl Anthony Towns? Like, well, what do you do? It is a tough situation. They're definitely the losers of this whole situation. Just from my point of view, I think teams moving forward, you can't hold out too long for one player and just put your whole franchise on hold, regardless of how much you think you're going to get the player. Because if a team is showing a reluctancy to trade with you, I feel like you have to have backup plans. You have to be willing to look out what's best for the organization, especially once it got to the point where the Trailblazers are saying they're going to keep Dame through training camp. I feel like you just need to really look at what your team is going through and not wait too much on just one player. Now, granted, if Dame would have still went to Miami, then we really wouldn't be thinking like that. But just a lot of teams sometimes try to wait out too long for one player, and then when they don't get that player, they're kind of left with just their hands being empty. So I do feel bad for Miami. Hopefully they can overcome once again. They've always proven people wrong, being that 8 seed to make it to the NBA Finals and still a game on the road. I feel like that's a big testament to just who the Miami Heat are and how willing they are to get through whatever adversity hits. But this is just a big loss, and I don't know. This one is really, really one that they'll be able to overcome because they've matched up with Milwaukee a lot over these past few years, and they've actually gone back and forth as far as who's won the series. But at this point, I don't really see how with this current roster they could possibly answer to any of the teams in the Eastern Conference. So I feel like they're going to have to make some changes and figure out what they're going to do quick because the season is right around the corner. So Miami's just the big loser in this one.
Yeah, I definitely get that. And I share some of those thoughts as well. But it's hard for me to think that Miami is just going to sit and not make a move. I would not be surprised if they made a move in the next few days or whatever the case may be, to get some sort of player, maybe even make a nice splash. And who they get, I don't think it's going to be Karl Anthony Towns, based on that whole interaction with Jimmy Butler over with the Minnesota Timberwolves and that situation. It doesn't really seem like Karl is that Miami Heat guy that they like to bring in and into the culture necessarily. But I could be wrong. Who knows? And they might get him, or whatever the case may be. But I'm expecting the Miami Heat to make a move and try and get some other player over there. Still trying not to count the Miami Heat out. Don't want to count them out because they have proven us wrong time and time again. But it is tough losing out on a player like Dame. But I do expect them to make some type of move here in the near future.
Yeah, wow. Like you said, never count the Miami Heat out, and hopefully they can do something because it's not looking good right now. But yeah, we're not gonna count them out quite yet till we see what they do.